And we are live. Thank you for everybody watching now and on the repeat. I got a special show here with Bryce Chapman from Lubbock, Texas, right?
Yes, sir. Lubbock, Texas.
We got Michael Moore back here. Michael Moore out of Greenwood, the leader of Citizens. What's the group, Michael?
Texans against judges who don't follow the Constitution.
Texans against judges that don't follow the Constitution. Love that group. It's growing, doing very well. And thank you for everybody watching now and on the repeat. Y'all got a heck of a show here. I actually interviewed Bryce a couple weeks back. Did pretty good numbers on the YouTube, and now we're going to tell your story to the Facebook audience, and kind of give a rundown as far as what you've gone through, and me dealing with you and even Michael. Well, first let's introduce you to the people. Who are you? Quick introduction. Go ahead.
All right. Well, my name is Bryce Chapman, and I'm from Lubbock, Texas. I was born and raised in Lubbock. Graduated from Texas Tech in 1994 with a degree in agricultural economics. I shoe horses for a living, and I also am an entertainer. I have horses and some dogs that do perform, and I spin a rope, and I have a complete act that I put together, and this involves my life. That this topic that we're going to discuss today involves a piece of property in Lubbock, Texas, that the city of Lubbock and the entire state of Texas has had a legislative session this last session discussing water issues out of Lubbock, and they have stolen my ranch property out of Lubbock, Texas, on a void judgment, and they've done it under the color of law to benefit a judge that's the Chief Justice for the Amarillo Court of Appeals. His name is Brian Quinn. They have done everything that you can imagine to me for my property to steal it, and that's theft. Stealing is theft. It's kind of a crime. But what happened was I owned this property before I was married. Bought it in 1997, and the law for homesteads changed after the year 2000, and it's been my homestead, which is protected by law and the Constitution of the state of Texas under Article 16, Sections 50 and 51 of the Texas Constitution. It says that you cannot force the sale of a homestead, and it's a rural property. It's not an urban property, and it's under 200 acres, so it's protected in codified statutes in the Constitution itself.
Okay, Bryce, and you speak a lot of legalese here. If you were able to dumb it down for the audience and for me, what are you saying here, like in a nutshell, real in simple talk that we can understand?
Okay, it's simple talk. If you own a car and that title is in your name, and you bought that car before you were married, or you just bought it, that car belongs to you. And then you get married, that does not become community property for your spouse. So in a proceeding of a divorce or any kind of action of that sort, I can't take your car. If I was married to a lady, I can't take her car, I can't take her retirement, and I can't take her anything that she acquired before the marriage. That's separate property.
Can she do that to the man?
She cannot do that to the man. If she had separate property and I had separate property, if there's a divorce, all that has to go and return back to the original status quo.
And is that how it usually works in Texas?
That's how it works in Texas. Even though Texas is a community property state, if you keep your assets and your emoluments and your property separate, anything that you put together, like a retirement account or anything that you put together with your spouse, or you buy a new home, then together with your spouse, then it's joint property.
Okay. So back to what you were saying, the homestead and all that. Explain that in layman's terms.
Okay. A homestead is protected. It's where you reside and where you live, or where you have an urban home can be a homestead.
So, like my house is in the city. We're in the city. Can mine be a homestead?
Yours can be a homestead,
but it's not currently, correct?
You don't have to in the state of Texas. You do not have to put it on the record that your homestead. All you have to do is say, "It's my homestead."
Is there benefits for this?
Okay, now let's give you a rundown on this. If you own two separate properties, and it's under 200 acres, and you're in the ag business or it's outside the city limits, you can have those things separate. You can have a tax exemption homestead, and you can have a dwelling homestead exemption
Under one roof?
under one homestead exemption clause. It's not necessarily under one roof. Okay, if it's an urban, which is in town, urban is in town, after the year 2000, it could be 10 acres that was designated as a homestead, which is protected from forced sale, even protected from child support obligations. There's certain things that there's only the bank is basically the only entity that can repossess or take your homestead. However, if you have special needs kids or something like that, that's a different story. Or you're an elder, that they can't take your homestead for a bank pretty much can't foreclose on it.
And you recommend, so you have to make your home a homestead, or do you have to claim it?
You don't have to. You can, and
Okay.
it does help. But in Texas, that's why it's the only deeded state in the union. Okay, in Texas we have a property tax. Other states like New Mexico, it's controlled by a land grant like Bureau of Land Management. So they have allocated. The government controls the tax basis through the Bureau of Land Management. Texas does not have that. Texas is one of the only state. It is the only state where private property is protected more than any other state in the United States.
Why is it like that?
Well, in 1845, I think, when the Constitution of Texas was written, Texas was ceded into the Union, into the United States. So the United States had already been fighting for hundreds of years against England, and the Texans knew that we better not allow the government to interfere with our property rights. And so Texas has always been a standing place. That's why Texas is known all over the world.
We're different.
We're different. It's a different place. So when you look at the perspective of a homestead in Texas, a homestead is in an estate. So it's automatically implicit. It's implied. You don't even have to expressly write it down. This is my homestead. All you have to do is be paying for it, have the title for it, and you can just walk around and just basically say, "This is my homestead." You can declare your homestead right here in town, and it's protected from forced sale due to creditors from, like, some guy that thinks that you owe him for a mechanic's lien or something. They can put a lien on it, but they can't force you to sell it. And if you do sell your homestead, then proceeds goes to a lien holder. It's not really that complicated if you get into the meat and potatoes of it, but Texas is pretty strict in taking property from creditors.
And Bryce, you haven't been like this for a long time, right? I mean, how long have you been knowing this? Like, it just comes out of you like this? How long?
Well, since probably 1995, I got involved with some legal issues with some roping associations, let's just call it. I'm not going to name them. But I found out that they were scamming money. And so in an organization, I started studying the labor laws, and organizations and associations can't discriminate in an organization between one group of individuals or another. And so I started studying the law and contract law in probably 1995. And so as that unfolded, I started realizing that when you see an injustice, any injustice, whether it's your neighbor getting arrested or somebody getting their house taken or somebody in a car wreck, and you look at their situation and you say, there's something wrong with that. And a person's intuition should react to those kind of conditions. Like, I mean, just like if somebody's videoing a police officer on the road, that police officer needs to leave that person alone. They don't need to just walk up and just grab their camera and beat them. You see it happen all over this country. Police officers are acting they're acting out of hand. They're out of control. And for the most part.
And let's be honest, you do back the police. You're a patriot, right?
That is correct.
But they do, and it happened to me. You saw a video at the Beto O'Rourke rally 3-4 years ago. They go in there, illegally detain me. I didn't assault nobody. And, I felt like my rights were violated. But, of course, since I'm Nino America, they treat me a certain way. I'll leave it at that. But I have realized what dealing with the police here in Midland a while back, it's like they didn't know what the Constitution, like they didn't protect it or uphold it or free speech. I think they learned more, in the climate we're in now, that you can record them, you can be on the sidewalk preaching, speaking, whatever. They can't stop you from doing that. But I have experienced them harassing me, and I think it's due to them not really being used to this kind of stuff. But the point is, some police, would you agree, they don't follow the Constitution, or they are, out of bounds when they interact with people? Is that an accurate statement?
I agree, and I agree. You see a lot of civil claims, and the police and the district attorneys and the prosecutors, they try to turn a civil action that's a right, that you have a right to video or have a redress of grievance against your government. It states it in the Constitution of the United States that they have an overarching requirement that every state must follow. And I'm going to read this. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 states that no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment by a grand jury. However, like the state of Texas, has enacted its own alternative legislation that permits prosecuting attorneys and police officers to charge by way of an information as opposed to an indictment. So when you're indicted by a grand jury, if you're convicted of a crime, say I'm convicted of a crime, and they have this indictment, and they don't let me go in front of the grand jury, that's like being arrested and not being taken to the magistrate. When a person gets arrested on the street, traffic ticket, or whatever, it could even be a shooting. That person, by those police officers, or a robbery, has to be taken to the magistrate immediately.
What's a magistrate?
A magistrate is like a judge, and there's somebody that's setting. Okay, a magistrate, they can issue arrest warrants, or they can have. It's an initial.
Is it a judge or?
It's basically a judge, yes, and they can look at this situation and have the discernment immediately to say whether to put him on a bond and throw him in jail because of the crime, or release him. Okay, it's like. Release that person. Okay, if you have a traffic ticket and you go to the magistrate and they say, well, you haven't paid this ticket of $60. Do you have $60? Yeah. Okay, pay the $60, let you go. Pretty much easy. That's a magistrate. It's a buffer between incarceration and wrongful imprisonment.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So they're doing it by way of an indictment just off of information. So I could say, oh, my neighbor's selling whatever.
Yeah.
Selling drugs, or they're selling women out their door.
Yeah.
Okay, off of information. Well, if my neighbor doesn't go before a grand jury, because the DA puts this grand jury together, that's why you have a jury pool, and they have a grand jury foreman, and you as a man or a person or somebody that gets accused of a crime, you're supposed to sit there and say you're the grand jury foreman, and you look at me and you say, tell your story. Okay, well, I was walking down the street. I was going to my mom's house, and I tripped, and they thought I was running from the cops.
Yeah.
And I wasn't having a crime. Okay, this grand jury foreman has this information that a guy's wearing a blue shirt, has glasses on, and a hat. It could be somebody else. It could have been a totally different person that was running and leaving from the cops, and they say, there he is, go get him. And he runs by, and then you just happen to be the innocent person right there. And then they knock on people's door every day, and they break in their houses, and they're at the wrong address. That's why it's so important for due process. Due process, when you get arrested, anybody, you ask them, I need to be taken to the magistrate immediately, and you're not supposed to book me.
So, and Bryce, you say this, and it sounds good, and it probably is the right way. But no, I've never seen this. Nobody's seen this. Why?
Well, most people think that the police officers, they go ahead and say, you're guilty. What happens if you go to a bank and you walk in and you're wearing a blue shirt and a guy runs out and he's got a blue shirt on and they say, there's the guy that robbed the bank, and he's running and you're walking and he leaves, and then the cops catch me and they throw me in jail, and I've got money in my pocket, say I have money, and then they take me to jail, or they turn around, and all they have to do for a due process violation, if you're arrested and you're in the car for robbing a bank, and they pull over and the cop looks at you and says, hey, why did you rob that bank? That's not immediately without delay. That's a delay. That's why they have lights on the top. They can run stoplights, they can run stop signs, and they can take you to the nearest magistrate. So if they arrest you on the south side of the county and the jail's on the north side of the county, well, the nearest magistrate may be right down the road.
But Bryce, that's what I'm saying though. It sounds like is this like sovereign citizen stuff? Because it seems like if I get locked up and I tell the police officer, take me to the nearest magistrate, they're gonna laugh at me.
I know that, and they do, and that's okay. That's okay. It's a humanitarian deal, and those police need to get the discernment to say, hey, look, I know that this situation, or I've heard about this situation, and they don't have it, and they're not using it.
But does anybody do it though?
As far as I've ever seen, no. But the law is very specific. You can get off of, or a person, it can get off of a crime just off of a due process violation, and they do it. And after a while, yeah, lots of people do get off of a crime by a due process violation. There's lots of them happen.
Okay. All right. Guys, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We're going to have more podcasts with Michael and Bryce here, but let's go back to your situation in Lubbock.
Okay.
So from the beginning, let's get into this. And you told the story before, but I want you to tell it again here,
okay,
and kind of dumb it down for us that don't know this legal jargon, because, of course, I asked you earlier about how long you've been doing this, because this is just coming out of you because, I mean, you know your stuff, and most citizens don't know our stuff about the law. I'll be the first to admit it myself, right? But what happened to you in Lubbock? And go ahead and explain that from the beginning and kind of dumb it down for the audience, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, I bought a piece of property, land. It's 170 acres, 177.33 acres.
Man, it's pretty good.
It's a French quarter section.
What does that mean?
It's a French labor. It's a French quarter section. A quarter of a section is basically 160 acres. But a French labor, they used to divide property up, and it was called a French labor, and it was 177.33 acres, basically a quarter of a section.
And a section is what?
A section is 640 acres. So
okay,
a fourth of that is 160 acres.
a French labor?
A quarter section. A French labor is basically a little bit bigger than a quarter of a section.
Okay, and a section is the property lines, and that's how they measure it, right? When they sell property, or
correct.
Okay.
That's your boundaries.
Okay, so you buy that in what year? And do you mind asking how much you paid for it?
Okay, I bought it for $200,000, and it was in 1997.
Was that a pretty good price back then?
It was.
That's a lot of acreage.
It sounds like it was a lot back then, but today's it's worth $1 million an acre currently. And the reason,
hold on,
yeah.
It's worth $1 million an acre now.
At 200, yes.
And you have how many acres?
177.33.
And you bought that for $200K.
$205,625.
So now I see why that's pretty valuable to certain people, right?
Right.
All right. So you bought that in the 90s,
right?
A $250,000 basically, and go ahead.
So I had it for about 4 or 5 years, and then I had I was dating a girl, and so we got married.
And this is before you, like you said earlier, you had this property before you entered into the holy matrimony,
correct.
Right? Okay.
That's correct. So it's exempt from, in a divorce proceeding, that property does not belong to her. And it can't be conjoined, it can't be joint management conservative property unless you agree on it. And my wife never was at my property. She didn't really have anything to do with it. And it was already in my name, and we never joined bank accounts together. It's just the way it was. So we rocked along there, and my wife filed for divorce in less than a year. and we'd dated for 8 years. So when she filed for divorce, her attorney, his name was Stephen L. Johnson out of Lubbock.
This is crazy, right? Stephen L. Johnson. Remember that name?
Stephen L. Johnson. Stephen L. Johnson was her attorney, and he called me several times over a course of a year. We had gone to mediation. He had threatened to take everything I own, ruin my reputation and my career. And as I was saying, I perform with an act, and I shoe horses.
And when you say shoe horses, what does that mean?
I put shoes on and nail shoes on the bottom of a horse.
And I've seen your videos; they got a lot of views.
Right.
This guy has millions of views on YouTube. You performed for the presidents and everything,
Correct.
right? Your rope tricks. I've seen you.
Correct. I performed for President George Bush in 2006 and 2008 at the White House.
And I've seen your videos with you shoeing a horse, putting that. Those videos do very good numbers. I've seen them on TikTok. But that's what you do, right? You know how to put them on there and everything.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Yeah. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I like that part. It's pretty interesting in my opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah. I performed for. I mean, it's crazy. Jeff Bezos. I performed for him. I've also performed for Elon Musk for his electric car factory in Austin. So I've been in a big circle, which I'm not that important of a guy. I mean, some people's names are more important than they are. No, I don't really think it's that big of a deal.
But I looked you up on YouTube, and you got a lot of big numbers. And you're not really a content creator, right?
Right.
But go ahead, Bryce. I'm sorry for interjecting.
So this Stephen Johnson had threatened me, and we'd gone to mediation. And my wife decided after she moved off, within a couple of months after we'd been married, she came back. So I thought, well, maybe things are going to be different this time, and she's grown up. Maybe she's had some whatever issues that she needed to deal with. Well, she filed for divorce again. And so the man that signed for my divorce decree, his name was Stephen L. Johnson. He was the judge. Previously, he had been my wife's attorney. So.
Okay. So the judge over your divorce was your wife's attorney.
Correct.
From the first time she tried to divorce you, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm not a lawyer. Ex-street dude, if anything.
Right.
But to me, that sounds like a conflict of interest because I know when before in the past, we've spoken to lawyers about other issues, and just if they somehow know someone or they were a part of someone else's case that you knew, they would be like, hey, here's your money back. I can't even talk to you because that's how it's supposed to work, correct?
Right. They have to run it's called a conflicts check. You're correct. And that's why you use either your social security number or your driver license to allow that judge to do a conflict check before he rules on that case, or an attorney has to do the same thing. They run a conflicts check so that it doesn't cause an impartiality or a black eye to the system, to be fair, to not be a biased outcome.
So you see this, right? You see
immediately
the signature?
Immediately, yes, the signature.
So you see the signature of your wife's ex-attorney. He's a judge presiding over your current divorce case. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I wasn't aware at the time that this was going to go on. I was never notified. So I look at the divorce decree. It says agreed. However, when the judge was your wife's, or even on an oil case or whatever, if that judge represented one of the clients in the same matter, mine was a divorce. It could be in the oil business. It could be in the car business. It could be in any business. That judge is constitutionally disqualified under the Constitution, under Article 5, Section 11. It states that no judge shall sit as counsel on the case. Well, that judge had already been counsel or the attorney for my wife on the case.
Kind of obvious, yeah.
So it's an automatic disqualification. There's no, it's mandatory, self-executing that judge is automatically disqualified, whether you agreed to the contract or the divorce decree or whatever. That whole thing is void.
So
it never existed.
So you noticed that, right? Did you notice it at first?
Right at first, right off.
Okay, so go ahead.
So, and I did not have an attorney at the time, and so I had called my wife's attorney, Aubrey Fouts, after Stephen Johnson, her first attorney that was the judge. I called Aubrey Fouts, and I said, that judge was my wife's attorney. I guess they thought I was nuts. They said, there's no way that can happen. So I kept arranging a meeting with this man, and I'm still living with my wife at the time. Matter of fact, I just hate to tell you this, but I'm still married to that same woman, even though the divorce petition has been signed, because it's a void decree. Child support's no good, property division's no good, and that divorce decree in its entirety as though it never even existed.
But you're still being held to those stipulations.
That's right. I'm still held accountable. I've been jailed for over a year and a half, 582 days on a void judgment, a constitutionally void judgment.
Okay, and you say void judgment, so does Michael. What is a void judgment in simple terms? What does it mean?
It means that a void judgment, it never existed. It's a nullity. Like you might as well write a number up on the board and then just go erase it. Like you're looking at the chalkboard and that say there's nothing there. It's exactly the same scenario that's happened here. That case that's all those 8,000 pages, 10,000 pages, and all the it's as though it never existed.
So you've gone. That's why you've gone through hell. That's what I'm saying. When I talk to you and Michael,
that's correct.
This thing has basically consumed you, correct? But let's continue with the story before we get into probably the emotional tolls taken on you. Go ahead. You're going through issues.
Okay.
I forgot where we were at, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I called the attorney and finally had a meeting with him about 4 months later. And I went into his office and he was a little bit he had a little bit of Alzheimer's. And he passed away several years ago. Aubrey Fouts was his name. Fouts law firm there in Lubbock.
Pretty good guy?
He's a lawyer's lawyer. Okay. If that means anything. So I asked him, I said, hey, I need to rescind my signature off of that because that divorce decree that you presented to the courthouse is void because that judge was my wife's attorney. And here's the paperwork saying that Stephen Johnson was already my wife's attorney. And that case right there, the 2015 divorce case, is void because he's already been the attorney on the same matter of controversy. And under the rules of procedure, it's a disqualification and it's a conflict of interest. So I tell him about this. And he gets up and walks out of the room and never speaks to me again. He says, you need to hire somebody else to help you represent you.
Why?
So, well, he says because I already told him that it was a void judgment, and so he's afraid of repercussions of a lawsuit because my wife right now, she's still my wife, she can go sue that attorney and make millions. She can go back and sue her attorney that she has now. His name is Matthew Lawrence Harris. Got a death threat from them that they were going to kill me. And a friend of mine also was on that. They said that they were going to shoot him.
Okay.
They said they were going to shoot me in the face. It's childish play because all they want from Lubbock, Texas, is that piece of property that's worth so much money.
That French labor, what do you call it?
That French labor. It's a French quarter.
Okay, so your attorney walks out of the room.
My wife's attorney. I didn't have an attorney.
Oh, okay. You talk,
and I'm talking to him. And it's like we're sitting at this table, and he's sitting right there. And I say, "Hey, Mr. Aubrey Fouts, that divorce decree is void, and the things that you filed in there. Here's my wife's signature on some of these paperworks. You filed the wrong one because that property's not supposed to be involved in that. And then that judge's signature on there makes that thing that's filed in the courthouse makes it you might as well burn it. It's no good."
And he got up and walked out. But he didn't do it because you made him mad.
No, he did it because that is how, okay, in all cases across the United States, the tactic for judges and attorneys is a non-reply and a non-response so that they can avoid the confrontation.
Any culpability,
that's correct.
So he gets out and walks out. What do you do? What do you do at that point?
I mean, they have locked doors, so they lock the doors, and I'm sitting in there in this room, and I just basically leave. Well, I called him and I said, you need to send me an email. So he sends me an email that I went in and he says, I know that you wanted to rescind your signature off of that supposedly divorce decree, that contract. And it's a nullity anyway because the judge can't be the attorney. So he sends it to me and I object and I write a letter or send you. I send it to the judge.
The same one?
The same one.
What's his name?
Judge Stephen L. Johnson. So we contact him and I said, hey man, that's a void judgment. You can't be the attorney on the same matter. And He's saying he makes me take a psychological evaluation like I'm some lunatic, like I don't know how to read. I have a college degree. Didn't I say that a while ago? Yeah. So I have a college degree and I know how to read, and I look at these two signatures. And I did say on your last interview that we had, I showed you the two signatures.
Yeah.
One is the judge and one is the attorney. Same exact signature.
And you posted that on Michael's page, correct?
That's
I think I seen it today.
Yes, I did. I posted it.
Okay. What about it?
Well, you look at those, that is called crime scene evidence.
Right.
That's a crime.
Yeah.
You
In black and white?
In black and white. It's like if you have a video of somebody and they're shooting somebody and they die right there, that's the same thing as a video evidence of a crime. That judge can't sign that. They have, right after that, this judge made me take a psychological evaluation.
Why did he did that?
Well,
To discredit you?
It's to discredit you,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, go ahead.
And if you don't do it, you're getting held in contempt of court. And they throw you in jail for 6 months. So they transfer, yeah. They transfer a civil action through a contempt charge to make it a crime.
What do you mean a crime?
Okay, you cannot take
Simple terms.
Okay, a crime is a crime can be a Class C misdemeanor is a crime. You drive too fast, you get caught, you're breaking the law. It's a crime, but it's a lesser level of a crime. Of course, obviously, first degrees are worse than a Class C misdemeanor. So you go on your record. Well, they ruin your reputation. They try to hurt your career, just like Stephen Johnson said he was going to do. I'll show you how he did it. They made me take this psych test, psychological evaluation, which I pass it. It's like I'm not some insane, abnormal. I don't deal with people that are corrupt, or not till this, because I've shot horses for 43 years and I've never had I've had one bad check written to me in 43 years, and those that have come back, they'll say, "Oh wait, it didn't go through, but will you run it again?" So anyway, I just don't deal with dishonest people. So when Stephen Johnson found out that I knew that and he made me take this psych test, I hired an attorney named Stacy Barber out of Crenshaw, Dupree, and Milam, one of the biggest, nicest law firms in Lubbock.
City?
Out of Lubbock.
Okay.
They're in the Happy State Bank building on the penthouse floor there on the 4th or 5th floor. So I'm talking to Stacy, just like you're sitting right there, and I said, "Stacy, the person that signed that divorce petition was my wife's previous attorney on our divorce decree." And she says, "Bryce, there's no way that can be that big of an oversight." I said,
pretty obvious, pretty big deal, right? I mean,
pretty obvious. And I looked around like this and I said, "Did you call me stupid? I can read." And those two signatures right there, Stephen Johnson is the judge and the attorney. I said, "I tell you what, why don't you go look it up?" So she gets up out of her big chair and she goes and comes back about an hour later. Come to find out, I found out this years later that the same court, the 364th District Court that this divorce decree is in, Billy Eichmann II, is in her law firm.
And who's he again?
He's the judge that took over Stephen Johnson's portion out of the 364th District Court. Judge Johnson was initially the judge on it. Then I tell her about this. And then all of a sudden, he's not on it. Billy Eichmann takes over. What they do is it's called judge shopping. They pick a judge so that they perpetuate it, so that they don't. They cover up the crime. They cover up the malfeasance, the bad action that they've done.
Is that similar to Mike's case or not?
It is similar. What they do is
It's like they pass in the hot potato or something, right?
Right. It's called judge shopping, and he is Judge Eichmann. Billy Eichmann is the elected judge for the 364th District in Lubbock, Texas. Well, Stacy Barber must have called him on the phone.
That was your lawyer?
That was my lawyer.
Yeah.
And she calls him and says, "Hey, Bill, we got a problem here, bro. We got a problem here."
That day that day?
They had to do it that day.
Okay.
"We got a problem here, bro." That judge on that case is Stephen Johnson, and she admits it in a bar grievance that the judge was the attorney, and she knew it. So basically, there's subverting the rule of law and covering up the cat litter box. So Billy Eichmann takes over. And on the county website, he says he's an ostensible partner in Crenshaw, Dupree, and Milam out of the same firm that I had hired of Stacy Barber. So they're partners in the same law firm.
So
The Constitution also says, basically, and in the rules of procedure, that the judge cannot have been in the same law firm as one of the litigants in the proceeding. So not only was the first judge, Stephen Johnson, disqualified constitutionally, Billy Eichmann was my attorney's law partner in the same firm, which he's disqualified too.
And what was your lawyer saying about all this?
Oh, she quit after that.
I was going to say, like,
They
I don't
quit.
think.
They don't want to. They don't want to represent you.
Hold on. So,
And this happens in 6 months, 5 or 6 months.
okay, I want to cut you off. I want to interject a lot more, but continue. What happens next?
Okay, so they have the hearing for this psychological evaluation, and this Bill Eichmann oversees this. You know, I get to see my kid, whatever. What it is an act, and it's rhetoric, and they try to discredit you to make you stop litigation when they're breaking the rules. And they do it every day, just like an arrest. You got to be taken to the magistrate. It's a due process violation. And this one is a constitutional issue, just like about 95% of the people that are arrested in the United States are there on a due process violation for a grand jury indictment that they have to be presented before their accuser. But anyway, so back to this situation. She no longer is representing me. She's no longer my attorney. She quits. I get to see my kid. I'm still married. So I'm. This is from September till January, and I file to the Attorney General, the Office of the Attorney General. Hey, I need to have a meeting about this child support because this divorce decree is void and this child support order is void, and all property turnovers that they're going to come after, I don't have to pay child support.
And were you aware that they're going to try to get some of your property?
And I was aware then that because I mean the property's worth a bunch of money.
Do you believe that's the main reason all this is happening?
That's the only reason.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so they're still trying to do a cover up. So my wife hires another attorney named Matthew Lawrence Harris after I contact the Office of the Attorney General to stop this child support payment because I'm still married.
And while you're doing that, are you like trying to find out with another lawyer, like getting some help, or what the hell's going on? Like,
I hire another attorney. That's correct.
And what's your what's your process right now? You're like, are you tripping out? What are you thinking?
Not really. I'm saying I know the rules. Even a person off the street, when you read the law that says the judge can't sit as attorney, just like you say, that's a conflict. Anybody that sees that knows that it's void.
It just seems so unreal. And it's like you're not getting any justice, and you're being railroaded. You know, I'm not trying to be biased here, but and then I feel like a lot of people go through this where they can't get no justice. They can't get a hold of an attorney. They're all connected, and then like you said, they're basically covering up for each other. So it's really going to be harder for you. And they're trying to throw you basically in an asylum if they could, right?
They were trying. They can't get it done because I'm just not that kind of a guy. I don't drink beer. I don't smoke dope. I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know what a methamphetamine is.
Yeah.
So what they did was this Matt Harris, he stops the Office of the Attorney General by filing an injunction.
Your lawyer?
No, my wife's attorney.
Okay.
She hires another one.
Okay.
And I don't have one at the time.
Okay.
So I hire a lady named Angie Trout out of Lubbock. And I tell her, hey, that judge was my wife's attorney on that divorce decree. And she says, you're insane. You need to take another psych test. I said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go down and check? And I'd been telling her for like 4 or 5 months.
Your lawyer?
My lawyer. And she says, Bryce, you're insane. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you think I'm crazy, I will give you everything I own. I will let your husband make my horseshoeing appointments, and I will give you all the money, all of my accounts receivables. I'll sign over my ranch, the deed, $180 million plus $170 million place. I'll give you my other property in town. I'll give you all of my cash, everything I own, if I'm wrong. And her husband says, you get down to the courthouse right now and check that out. And mind you, I've been seeing this for about 6 months. And she said, no, you're crazy. You need to take another psych test. Billy Eichmann tried to make me take another psych test by the same guy because they think I'm nuts. And the guy that gave me the psych test, he calls Billy Eichmann and says, I'm not going to do it. He says, you're putting my life in jeopardy and you're putting my practice in jeopardy, and I'm not going to do it, and you can hold me in contempt of court. And he says, you're not going to find another person in the city or the county to give him that. So they looked for 42 other people, and not one person would give me that test because it's a liability. So they just threw this order out like it was, because I'm not an insane guy. It's not going to happen. So Angie Trout, she says, I'll go check. So she goes down to the courthouse, comes back an hour later, and her husband and I were sitting there, Tim, we're sitting there talking fishing stories, and our kids go to school together at Trinity, or did go to school at Trinity. And she comes back in and she goes, she's sweating. She looks at me and she opens the door in her office. She comes back from the courthouse and she says, you're not going to believe this, blankety blank blank. I said, what's that? She goes, you're still married to her. I said, I told you. And she goes, oh my gosh, I've got to withdraw. Oh my gosh, I've got to file a recusal or disqualification motion. I said,
why?
Because we're fixing to have a hearing in front of Stephen Johnson in 2 days.
Oh, she's got to file a motion. I think a withdrawal to leave your case.
She did.
What? Why will she leave your case?
Because I have all the documents and the emails saying that judge was my wife's attorney over the last 4, 5, 6 months. And she's supposed to, she has a duty. A lawyer has a duty to uphold the law even when the law does not agree with what she believes it should be.
So what was the conflict of interest with her? Why did she withdraw?
Because if she files a motion to disqualify this judge, she has to go in front of all these judges. That's committing professional suicide.
Oh, so you're saying
she's going to lose every case she has.
How are you going to get any help?
You're not. They have the judges. It is so hard to convict or remove a judge, but it's fixing us. The accountability of judicial conduct people now are they're fixing to start removing judges left and right because these judges are committing judicial suicide on themselves. They're making rulings from the bench that aren't law. They have to apply the law. Edile scripta est says, as so the law is written, it is to be obeyed and followed. And they don't. And they just do it like they just rule from the bench.
Okay, so she says she has to get out, withdraw, what happens next.
Okay, so she files a motion to recuse. It's actually disqualify.
Oh, hold on, before you go there. So they're saying you're divorced, but she actually finds out that you're not. You're actually still married, right?
That's correct.
Because it's a void judgment.
She says it. My attorney, you're still married, and I've got to withdraw because we have 2 days. When you file a motion to disqualify a judge, you have to do it within 10 days so that they can appoint another judge. But on this case, the only thing that they could rule at that time is the judge is disqualified. My wife, if she wanted a divorce, she would have to file a whole another petition because that number on that cause from that signature from that judge, it's void. You can't continue that. Because there's a difference in definitions. Definitions are really, really important in law or anything. Recusal is if there's a bias or the judge has a conflict and he doesn't want to do it. That's one thing, and that can be waived. But a constitutionally disqualification where the judge was represented one of the people previously, even in murder cases. They have to disqualify, and they have to start that whole proceeding all over. It has to be a whole new case number and a whole new filing because that one that was there
makes sense. Yeah,
it's over with.
Yeah.
So as time went on, I hired another attorney, and he finds out, and he's trying to quit. So he says he files a motion to withdraw. So his name is Aaron Carter. And this is not defamation because these are facts. Aaron says I'm not paying him. So we go in front of the judge. He files a motion to withdraw. So I go in front of the judge. The judge is sitting here, Billy Eichmann, who's disqualified. And I'm trying to tell them, but they're not listening. My attorney's sitting right here. And he tells the judge, Billy Eichmann, he says, he's not paying me, Your Honor. So the judge looks at me and says, you're not paying him? So I pulled it out of my briefcase. I said, here's a check for payment for $8,850 that I paid him. And then I said, do you check your accounts receivables? And he goes, yes. And I said, okay. I said, here's an ACH automatic withdrawal out of my checking account. Can you please read that when that last payment was made to Mr. Carter right here? And he looks on there, and I think it was like 2 days before this. And he goes, you're paying him. And he goes, he tells this attorney, he says, you have to represent him tomorrow. Boy, you talk about swole. He was mad. So he represents me, and then he withdraws later because he's not doing his work. So I tried to hire another one, and I hired a law firm out of another town, and
wow,
I've tried to hire another. These attorneys have some slick tactics that they do. So after 8 or 9 years of this litigation for child support on a void judgment,
are you paying child support the whole time?
No, because I don't owe it.
But you have a court issued
a court issued decree that they say is valid, and it's not. On its face, it's void because that judge is disqualified. So if I agree to pay this, then I'm agreeing with the terms and conditions that I'm still married.
True.
And I'm trying to tell them, you can't do that. And an attorney would say, well, make a payment. So I'd make a payment, and I'd say, no, this is void. And they go, no, we're just talking about child support. We'll just get. Well, all these attorneys kept withdrawing from the case because they find out that the judge was the attorney. And they take money, and it's a rule and run type situation is what they do. And they fleece the American public in the court system. The family court system is absolutely, it's a business. And they fleece the American people. And, when you're in a divorce petition, a divorce action, your emotions are running, you're not thinking clear, and things are kind of a little bit distraught. You're worried about your kid. I mean, my kid and I performed all over this country, and I haven't seen her since 2022. February 23rd of 2022 is the last time I'd seen my little girl, and I haven't seen her since. Now, Stephen Johnson continued to sign orders on that case, knowing that he can't rule on it. So the other day, they keep, so on my property, this Matt Harris, he's threatening to rip the sheetrock off my house, threatening to take everything I own, just like Stephen Johnson. He filed for an enforcement for turnover. So he files in a turnover for my property, my ranch, to sell it at the courthouse. You can't do that.
Why did he say he had the reason he had the right to do so?
Because he said I owe child support.
Oh, so they try to take your ranch for the back pay.
For child support, and you can't do that in the state of Texas. The Constitution strictly prohibits, you cannot sell your homestead to pay for child support. And they can't force the sale of it.
So what happens?
Well, so the sheriff, who I know very well, Kelly Rowe, I performed for his foreign exchange student program 6 or 7 times. So I know Kelly. It's not like I don't know him. I said, hey, Kelly, I filed a notice in the Avalanche Journal, a legal notice that if any legal personage or a lawyer, judges, interfere with my relationship or my sacred trust relationship, which is my whole life, my property, my family, that I'll hold them liable. It's a trespass. It's a crime. So I gave them notice. They were notified. Hey, emails. This judge is the attorney. They sell my ranch.
They sold your ranch
at the courthouse.
Well, where were you at?
I was with my mother at the time. My mother had a heart procedure, and I was at the hospital. And they had an auction, and they moved the auction from where it was advertised at the courthouse lawn to the 5th floor of the courthouse. So they know that they're committing a crime by selling property that they don't own. But it's burglary. To enter a building to commit a crime therein is called burglary. And that was a closed kind of a door courthouse meeting, and they only had one bidder. And the person that bid and supposedly paid off my note, they say he's a purchaser. But you can only, if you have one bidder in a public auction, it is a non-bona fide purchase, which means that it's not a valid purchase. You have to have 2 bidders.
Oh, for an auction.
For an auction. And the person that bought actually paid my note off. It's called a stranger. If I go pay so a stranger in law is this. If you have a title to a car and a promissory note, and I personally go pay your note off at the bank with that title attached to it for your car, who owns that car? If I pay your note off.
Yeah, you do.
No. Whoever has the title. The bank doesn't care who pays it off. The bank does not care who pays your loan. They don't care if somebody else pays your credit card.
So the title needs to be transferred.
The title.
So that's why when I sell my trucks or I buy trucks, you exchange the money and you exchange titles.
That's correct.
Okay, so in your case, you're saying that didn't happen.
They levied a sheriff deed is not a valid deed. It is a fraudulent deed. That's why when you buy something at a public auction, that you buy it and you assume the purchase or the property at your own peril, at your own risk. And they notify you at those sales. That's why we have a wholesale retail market in the United States. You go to Lowe's or Home Depot and you buy a Milwaukee drill. That Milwaukee drill comes from a wholesale place that you know where it came from. It has a chain of where it came from. When you buy something at an auction, a car or something like that, the auctioneer assumes the risk because he takes the property in possession that you're doing it in a good faith. But he becomes a converter, which means that if he holds the transfer of that property, he assumes the risk that it could be stolen. Because you could go take this phone to an auction and sell it, and that's not your phone, or a car, or a bicycle. And if somebody has the title to that or can prove that it's theirs, then whoever bought it at that auction, it's not a wholesale retail market.
So you're saying they sold your property without a title in possession, and so what'd you figure out about that? I mean, what happened there?
I didn't say it was for sale. So four people were in the auction that were my friends. One of them is the world's greatest auctioneer. He watches the sheriff, who is not an auctioneer, who doesn't have a license, he's the sheriff, one of the deputy sheriffs. He sells property. He doesn't have an auctioneer license. So that makes the sheriff department liable for that sale of that property. So he just put the county commissioners on this county of Lubbock and the taxpayer in a huge liable position by not hiring a licensed attorney, a licensed auctioneer.
So what happens?
So one of my friends stands up and says, "That's a homestead. You can't sell it." This is on video. Joe Alpanalpa, one guy videoed it. So that's why videoing is so important. Like your stuff that you do, and if you get arrested or you're videoing something on the street, that's gold. You protect that as much as you can, because if you can get that on video of police officers or sheriffs or somebody else, anybody performing an illegal act, you've got it on camera, and that's valid proof for a crime that's been committed. So my friend that lives behind my house, Joe Alpanalpa, videos the sale of this ranch in the courthouse that was advertised on the yard of the courthouse.
Now, is that illegal that they moved it?
Yeah, you can't move a public auction. You can't move it from where it was originally stated. It's called structuring. It's the way the parts are arranged. And so while they did that, they sold other property outside, and then they moved my one property in the building upstairs to commit burglary, and they did it at armed robbery because the sheriff has the guns.
And it makes sense because if you want everything on the up and up, you would think, why would they take your deal and move it to behind closed doors, basically, right?
Correct.
All right, so what happens? He records it.
So Glenn Heinrich, a friend of mine, stands up and says, "You can't sell that. That's a homestead. That's protected property. We're going to sell it anyway," the sheriff said. So I had a lis pendens, which is a notice to the public that there's a lien on that property. There was I placed $1 billion lien on my property for my labor, because you can't tell me how much I'm worth, and I can't tell you how much you're worth. So the sheriff moved towards the guy that had the paperwork and doesn't have to brandish the gun, but he has a pistol on his side, and he says, "That's not what we're here to discuss." So my friend sat back down. This is all on video. Now, my other friend that's the world's greatest auctioneer is sitting there watching this in disbelief. He cannot believe that this is happening.
I mean, this is all bogus.
All bogus. It's a non-bona fide purchase. So Joe Alpanalpa,
Lubbock, Texas. What's going on over there?
they're criminal. It's criminal.
And I'm going to say real quick, that's why you've been coming to me. So is Michael, because these things that sound so unfathomable, these things sound so unreal, and it's because nobody holds them accountable. Nobody puts it on blast. No, it's done in the shadows. But thank God for the word of God. It says what happens in the dark will come to light. Amen. So it's good that y'all are here telling this, because I mean, who would believe this?
Right. And who would believe this? How about this? The guy that purchased my property, actually, he's the stranger in law because he paid a note off because I didn't want to sell it. If I go pay your note off like I told you, then you still own your car because you hold the title. I have the title to my property. They can't transfer that title. It's forgery.
Without you.
Without my permission.
Yeah, okay.
And you can't even do it on a court order. You cannot do that even on a court order. Now, Joe videoed the sale. The guy that purchased or paid my note off is pretty much best friends with the Chief Justice for the Amarillo Court of Appeals. It's called structuring, the way the parts are arranged to for things to flow for the outcome of the situation.
So what do you mean in layman's terms? What do you mean? I don't get it.
Matt Harris contacted the judge. They moved the sale with one bidder because I told my friends, "Don't you bid on that property if you go up there. Do not do it."
There's no way there's no way they could have considered them a bidder.
They couldn't have considered them a bidder because they didn't stand up and bid. They got to have two bidders.
And a bidder.
Not just because there's people at a sale, they're observers. They're not bidders.
Okay, so
potential bidders.
An actual bidder is standing in a certain role.
And has to say, I'll bid. I'll do it, or however much. If it's 100,000, hey, 100,000, 100,010, 100,020. Who else? You have to have two people bidding on that one thing, or you can't sell that item.
So if you go to a regular auction, if there's only one person bidding on, if there's only one person bidding on it, they're not going to sell it to him.
It's not a bona fide purchase.
Okay, so go ahead.
So I catch wind of all this, and Joe gives me the video of this supposedly sale. It's a fraudulent sale, and you can't put a lien on a property that's a homestead based off of a void judgment, because my whole divorce decree is void. They're trying to do.
Now it's all clicking in my brain and what you're saying now. Now I'm kind of getting it already.
And what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, well, he has that asset, that property, to pay this child support, and so they're going to sell that just to pay that child support, knowing that it's a void judgment. So I get the video from Joe, and I mass produce it because it's valuable.
You got it right now?
There's probably 10 people. Yeah, I don't have it with me on my person, no.
Are y'all going to put it on the page?
I'll put it on the...
I want to get a copy too, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll put part of it. It's about a 15-minute auction, and you can see the guys in there. So after this auction, July the 6th of 2021, I go and file my deed back into the courthouse because they paid my note off. It's still mine. I go file my deed back into the property records.
Hold on. So they pay off your note.
Yeah.
You still got the title of possession.
Correct.
And then
I'm still living there.
And you go file the deed. What does that mean? That means whenever you pay a property off, say my mortgage, if I pay it off, I don't got to do nothing, right? Because they're going to send me the deed. Is that how that works? Or not?
There's no lien. The bank doesn't have a hold on your property anymore. They release the title.
So you went and filed the deed, and what happens?
Okay, so that was July the 8th or 9th. So
of what year? Of what year?
2021.
Okay.
So this is July. So we're going to go July, August. Here we go. This is just within 2 months. So I file it, and I have a UCC1 lien. I filed the lien on it and a list pendants, which means that there's ongoing litigation concerning this property. And they're still trying to enforce child support, which I don't owe. So they file an enforcement because they say I'm in arrears. August the 28th, I got set up at the Texas Tech Ranching Heritage Center in Lubbock, Texas, on the campus of Texas Tech. My daughter and I are going to perform for Ranch Day. I show up. 4 unmarked police officers come and arrest me at a show. The judges and the attorneys had set me up for that. They put it all over the news to defame me.
And what was it? What was the arresting cause of arrest? What was it? What did they say?
They said that they wouldn't give me the arrest warrant. I said, "Let me see the warrant." They said, "We don't have to show you." I said, "No, yeah, you do."
Well, what were the charges?
For contempt of court for not paying child support
On a void judgment.
on a void judgment. Now, but before that, let's go back to March or to May 5th. May 5th, I have a friend of mine call me and say, "Hey, we've got this wanted poster for you."
Oh, I forgot about
Billy the Kid.
I forgot about this. You put this in the video.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So they passed this.
Hold on, my bad. I don't know if I caught it. So you go to jail, you bond out?
No, you can't bond out for contempt of court.
So what happens?
Okay, so go back to this. Let me go back to this wanted poster. They passed this wanted poster out all over Lubbock. G-Bo's, I did their commercials, their Wrangler commercials for G-Bo's. So they take this wanted poster, Matt Harris does, and he says, we're looking for Bryce Chapman. I'm not wanted. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. You talk to me. Anybody else wants to call me, they can call me. And they're looking for me as I'm an outlaw, like I'm Billy the Kid.
Well, I mean, I don't even think they even put.
You can't.
But I'm saying I don't even think they put regular criminals on wanted posters. I mean, I guess maybe Crime Stoppers, but you're saying the actual wanted poster, you showed it to me. It's like an old school, where you by yourself wanted.
Right, wanted by a private party. It says the sheriff department. It says reward offered. Now, under the Texas Penal Code, it says a person commits an offense if he intentionally, knowingly abducts another person with the intent to hold them for ransom or reward.
So they did that to you.
And they did it at gunpoint, which means what? It's aggravated kidnapping. They kidnapped me on a void judgment. The judges and the sheriff and this attorney, Matt Harris, do this to me to defame my character, just like Stephen Johnson's trying to do.
So the wanted posters going around Lubbock.
Went to G-Bo's, went to Tractor Supply. And I performed for them. I also performed for and worked for Lonnie Alsop. He owned all of Alsop's convenience stores. Well, this lady that had received this wanted poster that called me, I didn't know that they could do this. They take that wanted poster to her, and she says, "I know him personally. And no, we're not going to hang that up in any of our stores, and neither did G-Bo's or Tractor Supply."
Thank God.
So Matt Harris and his wife, she's also an attorney in Matthew Harris Law Firm, it's a criminal law firm, basically. She takes it to Comet Cleaners. I've been a customer there for 30-something years. Matt Harris's wife, Carrie Harris, says, "We need you to put this wanted poster up because Bryce kidnapped this kid."
Kidnapped the kid?
She lied.
Oh, okay.
You can't, passing out a wanted poster is a felony. It's a Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organization Act. They're acting as a mail courier and impersonating a police officer, a peace officer.
Hold on. If you pass out a wanted poster?
That's correct. The sheriff has to do it himself, or the Texas Rangers.
So a regular person cannot do that?
Not a lawyer, not knowing that it's a void judgment? No. He gets the same penalty once he's caught for passing that wanted poster out. It's a first-degree felony. It's structuring, and it's organized crime. And under organized crime, with 5 or more people commit a crime, and they continue this, it's a first-degree felony, and they have no defense. They go to prison for life. So back to this arrest, August 28th, they take me to jail.
Oh, so this wanted poster is before you go to jail.
Right.
So they set you up and they catch you at the college fixing to do some rope tricks and whatnot.
Right. They set me up. So I go and they send me to jail. Well, you think you're going to bond out, think you can get out. Not on contempt of court. I stayed in jail 180 days on a void judgment.
Half a year,
6 months. So
what are you doing in the county?
I had already sent the county and Matt Harris a bill that if you throw me in jail, I filed a bill to him. If you throw me in jail, you have to pay me $2,500 for every 10 minutes that I'm in jail. And they accepted it.
What do you mean they accepted it?
It's a contract.
This is before you went to jail?
It's conditioned acceptance, yeah. I said, don't throw me in jail. I used it as a deterrence theory. I'm thinking, dude, you're not going to throw me in jail. on a void judgment because this is what it's going to cost you. And then they threw me in jail. So
How they accept it?
here you go. You accept that, and then you throw me in jail. The terms and conditions of that that's what it is.
Even though they didn't sign or nothing.
Even it doesn't have to sign it at
And
all.
what's that called?
It's not an implicit contract. It's an implied contract. I mean, expressed because you wrote it down, and then it physically actually happened. They physically threw me in jail.
Okay.
When I said, if you throw me in jail, my time is valuable. I don't work for free. I don't sit here for free. You're not sitting here for free. You work for a payment. If you drive a truck, you get paid to drive.
Amen.
If I'm sitting in jail and they throw me in jail, here's the terms and conditions of this.
But
If you throw me in jail, it's $2,500
But-
because I'm not going to be able to do anything else.
But what stops anybody from doing that though? Criminals or anyone else that goes to jail?
Well, you can, but if it's a crime, they can dissipate that. I didn't commit a crime.
So you're saying because you weren't a criminal or you didn't commit a crime, you're charging them for your time, basically.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So let's continue. Go ahead.
So they throw me in jail for 6 months and I get out.
How'd you finally get out?
Well, they let you out 6 months
Oh damn.
because that's the terms
The window.
of the void decree. They held me in jail for that. So it's $360,000 a day is what my terms for that contract was. So the county of Lubbock owes me $360,000 a day.
I hope you
for-
get it.
Well, they're going to have to pay me. They have to. And Matt Harris, that's why I filed in the newspaper, if it be any man's wish or by way of use of legal personages or titles to intercourse with all of my sacred trust relationships without my express written consent, you're a third party interloper and you've created a contract. That's a contract. So not only did the sheriff owes me it personally, $360,000 a day. Everybody that's on that case that acted against the rule of law that was notified, they owe you that money individually.
Okay.
So I go to jail, I get out, and I finally get a hold of a guy in May of 2022. His name was John Nation out of Dallas. And he was on the Tom Coleman case in Plainview when they had to replace the whole district attorney's office for a conflict of interest. So this guy knows what a conflict is. All these DAs had already represented all these drug dealers that they said were drug dealers. All they wanted to do was get the black people out of Tulia. Well, this Tom Coleman, a police officer, they're planting drugs on these people, and the judge knows it. They all know it's anyway. John Nation was the special prosecutor in Lubbock, or in Plainview on this case.
Yeah.
With another guy, I'll think of the guy's name here in a minute. And to replace the whole DA. So they convicted a police officer for perjury for that drug raid. And the judge that was on the case, his name was Ed Self I think he was out of Hale Center. And he was a retired judge at this time. So I go to jail in August, and I tell this Mackie Hancock that's on this case now, he's the one that did the turnover orders for my property over these 6 or 7 years, 8 years of litigation. They keep replacing judges, retired judges. It's a rule and run. They can make a ruling and then they leave, and you can't catch them and track them down to apply paperwork to them to say, hey, I need you to come back to court
Because they're retired.
because they're retired.
Okay.
So that's paying a public official to commit a crime, and that's an emolument violation. It's against the Constitution of the United States. It's a crime. So I tell Mackie Hancock while I'm in handcuffs in court, I said, I filed a criminal complaint on you, and you can't oversee this case. About August the 29th, next day, I guess. So he steps off the case. Guess who he was, where he was a judge? The Amarillo Court of Appeals with Brian Quinn, the Chief Justice, who owns the property next to mine, who's best friend with the kid that supposedly paid my note off.
Oh.
So here's where you get into structuring and associates of the law. So not only did the Chief Justice for the Amarillo Court of Appeals need my property to get his $250 million to allocate water for his ranch, they couldn't do it without my ranch. So they're doing this under the color of law. So they appoint his second guy that retired, Mackie Hancock, to rule on my case to do the turnover orders for my property to benefit Brian Quinn.
Okay,
the Chief Justice.
These are some strong allegations. I mean,
No, these aren't allegations. These are facts.
But I'm saying these are not coincidences at all. I mean, there's no. I mean, this is a pretty
Cold hard facts. So
So I'm just trying to get this right. They want your property for the water rights, right?
to flood it to make a lake.
To build a lake for Lubbock.
That's correct. And they can't make a lake for recreation in the state of Texas. It has to be for potable drinking water. They can't just build a lake for recreation so that the judges and attorneys can.
Law.
That's talk. So that they can build a house and then go sleep with their girlfriends so they don't tell their wives. This is about crime at the highest level, and I'm gonna tell you how high this gets real quick. Because I'm just a regular old cowboy that shoes horses in the dirt.
Well, before you get to that point right here, just for everybody watching right now, what you're saying right now, when did you realize, when did it hit you? Like,
well, when I was in jail, a guy came in the jail, and I didn't even know this guy from Adam. And this guy, he walks in the jail, and he says, "Anybody in here know Bryce Chapman?" Everybody looks up, and he goes, "He's right over there." He comes over there, he says, "I know everything about your ranch. I know Brian Quinn. I work for him." He said, "I know what they're trying to do to you, man." He said, "I know your last attorney was Charles Chambers. I know everything. They offered him lakeside property to turn over your property."
Who was this guy?
His name was Michael Summerford. He filed a sworn affidavit
Why did he tell you this?
because he knows that it's an injustice. They stole my property. Look, there are great people out there, and even if you're a guy that's been in trouble and been in jail, why do you think Jesus hung out with the worst people? He didn't like the other ones.
Oh, that's really the worst ones.
That's what's going on right now. That's what's going on. I would rather hang out with a guy that's
Hell
at least
yeah.
you know that you
Hell
know,
yeah.
hey,
No, you're right.
I would rather know that. And some guy
Mhm.
and say, "Hey man, what'd you do with my cap? What'd you steal my cap? You steal my cap?" Eventually, if you're a good person, they're going to bring it back, and that person that's committed that crime is going to go, "Man, I apologize for that." They're going to make amends. These judges are not going to do that. And neither will attorneys.
Damn.
It gets deep. So they appointed Ed Self, who was the judge on the Tom Coleman case.
What case was that one?
That's the Tulia drug
Okay,
bust.
okay.
It's the notorious Tulia drug bust case.
I need to get hold of somebody from down there to hear that story. How can I research that one? You know?
Just look up. You can just look it up. It's the Tulia drug bust case,
Okay.
and it talks about it. And so this John Nation that I had hired, he comes in there, and Ed Self does not know that John Nation's my attorney at the time. And John Nation got out of those 43 guys, I think he got 38 of them off of their sentences. 38 out of 43 on due process violations because they were tampering with the evidence. Somehow, I can't remember exactly all the story, but anyway, so John Nation tells me, he says, I called him in May of 2022 when I got out, and he says, "You're telling me that the judge was your wife's attorney?" I said, "That's correct."
It goes back to the same.
And he says, "Man, can you be in my office? When can you be?" I said, "I'll be there tomorrow. I'm a
Hell
rodeo
yeah.
cowboy. I sleep on straightaways, wake up on the curves. I'll get there. Be there." He said,
Woo.
"Be there at 9." So I go to his office, and he's sitting there, and he's got his glasses like this, and he goes, he's coughing. He says, "So you're telling me that the judge was your wife's attorney?" I said, "That's correct." And he says, "What do you have to prove this?" And I said, "Well, I have the signatures.
Paperwork.
Paperwork. I'll show you this." So he goes down there and he goes, no judge is that stupid." I said, "Well, he is." And I showed it to him and he goes, "Oh my, I cannot believe this." I said, "Well, I believe it because it happened." He goes, I've been a lawyer for all these years. And he said, "I've heard that this could happen, but I've never seen it personally. This is the first time ever." And he hands it to his paralegal team. And she goes, "Oh my, are you?" And I said, "No, I'm not married." And she goes, "You know that's," and I said, "Bigamy." She goes, "You know that's a," I said, "a third-degree felony." I completed her sentences for her. So I'm still married. If I go get married, that's why this case has to be voided, because if I go get married, they'll turn it around on me and they'll get me for bigamy.
Okay,
Third-degree felony.
so what stems from that? What happens?
All right. So Ed Self throws me in jail for 6 months off of this Mackie Hancock, he had to step off the bench because I'd already filed a criminal complaint on him.
So you got thrown in jail again?
This is the first time. Still,
yeah,
we're still in
Okay.
2021. So this Ed Self is the one that signs the order to keep me in jail for 6 months. So I get out, and then I go to John Nation, and he says, well, the only way you can get out of this is a bill of review. Well, at the time, I didn't realize that a bill of review is not necessary for a void judgment. It's void on its face. So he filed one, and they denied it at the Lubbock. Everything. The judge was the attorney. It's a void judgment. All the legal jargon that goes along with it. And they appointed another retired judge named Kelly Moore from Brownfield.
He was retired?
He was another retired judge, and he denied my bill of review. Well, I was just kind of devastated. I was in jail at the time.
Damn.
The second time I was in jail. Because I had a hearing on this case after I hired John Nation in May of 2022. All this year, the whole year went around to 2023, and I'd filed a criminal complaint on Matt Harris, the judges, and I handed it to the DA. When you file a criminal complaint, a first-degree felony, you give that to the district attorney, and they have to attest it, which means acknowledge it, look at it, and put an investigation into it. Well, it's pretty simple. The judge can't be the attorney. That's an overturn, and now they're throwing me in jail, and they're stealing my property. Okay, so they've already stole my property, and I haven't been on there. So coming around to 2023, I filed mine in December 9th of 2022 to the district attorney, criminal complaints. I filed those criminal complaints with them, and I'm thinking, man, they're going to do something about this. They have to issue an arrest warrant immediately for those people on that criminal complaint if it's a felony. Sunshine Stanek of Lubbock, Texas, did not issue the arrest warrants for those people that are named on that criminal complaints because they're all judges and attorneys, and
They're not going to arrest them.
they're not going to arrest them when they know that they committed a crime. So I called the attorney, this Matt Harris. Hey, you stole my stuff, man. You don't talk to a guy. Will you please give me my stuff back, please? No, you have a First Amendment right to protect your life, your liberty, and your property.
Amen.
And so when you have an infamy of character, which you're not believable, to deprive a man of life, liberty, and property in a court of justice if you're a liar. So Matt Harris used stolen receipts. I had a girl working for me, and she went and took him my cash receipts, and they used them against me in court, and Matt Harris knew they were stolen. So he had stolen information that he's using against me in court. And the judge, Mackie Hancock, kicks the girl, Jennifer Reed, off the stand and says, you stole that information, and he should have arrested Matt Harris and that girl right then for theft. He admits it that it's theft. Does nothing to him. So as it continues on, Matt Harris, I get out of jail the second time, and Matt Harris's criminal combination, they're stealing panels off my property. This Jennifer Reed. I filed complaints, police reports. I'd also filed a criminal complaint with the Lubbock Police Department on Stephen Johnson in 2021. They wouldn't take my report, so I hired a private investigator to go in the police department with me to file a criminal complaint on the judge. They finally took it.
And what happened?
Nothing.
Wow. Hey, Bryce, we're already at an hour and 20, so let's,
Okay.
if we can kind of get towards the end, it's already a pretty long one.
Okay.
But where we at now, or what happened from there till now? Go ahead.
Okay, from there till now, they throw me in jail one more time. They were going to leave me in jail for the rest of my life based on community supervision every 10-year increments. They were going to leave me if I didn't pay the money. So of this supposedly $27,000, $26,000 that I was supposedly owed for attorney fees and child support. So the local veterinarian, he's my friend, he paid Matt Harris to purge me out of jail. I'd already been in there over a year. This
second
time.
Damn.
So he pays me to get me out of jail, and he had to pay Matt Harris $6,000 to get me out of jail. You cannot be held in jail for attorney's fees. It's against the law. And they do it all the time. So now they still say that I owe child support after that. And Matt Harris says he bought my property June the 3rd of this year, my other house in town. And the bank called me the other day and said, hey, you make your payments. I said, hey, have they turned this property over? No. So what they do is they in-house this stuff, and they do it in counties, and they don't report it out of the local area. But anyway, the judge on the case that was replaced, his name was Patrick Pirtle. He's the third judge from the Amarillo Court of Appeals with Brian Quinn, who did turnover orders for my property. So Mackie Hancock with Brian Quinn, that owns the property next to mine, he's named on the paperwork. Patrick Pirtle is named on the paperwork. Mackie Hancock is named on the paperwork, and so is Judy Parker. So there has been 3 Court of Appeals judges that were on the trial court level, not the appeals level, not the higher court, all moved down from the appeals court level that have been on this case to turn over property. They're in-housing it, and they're trying to hide this under the code of law. So the judge writes me this letter the other day. He says this. He says, on this rule on a void order, I guess you saw where today the Texas Supreme Court denied your motion for rehearing in your case seeking a writ of mandamus, ? I'm hoping that will convince you of the futility of your position.
Wow.
But you probably think that the Supreme Court is just another part of your alleged conspiracy to violate your constitutional rights and will continue with your tilt with windmills. Good luck with that.
He wrote you that?
He wrote it. Patrick Pirtle. Everybody, his email address is patpirtle52@gmail.com. patpirtle52@gmail.com. I would like for everybody to email this guy and say, what in the world are you thinking? Are you not going by the rule of law? And
what's the significance of
Well, so what happened was, the significance of that is this. I was notified of this at 11:19 a.m. in the morning. On this judge sends me this email at 11:19 in the morning.
What day?
Friday. The Supreme Court did not notify me of the dismissal until 6:20 that night, 7 hours later. How does the judge, a retired judge, by the way, find out that the Supreme Court denied my motion for a rehearing before I did? 7 hours. 7 hours before I knew.
So what does that mean in the most worst way? What does that mean?
It's called ex parte communication between judges, and it is a felony, and it's against the law. Now here's what.
So basically you can't give that information to no one else
besides me. I don't have an attorney. Who's the attorney that they're supposed to send it to? They're supposed to send that information to me. They're not supposed to
tell each other.
What
the hell?
Yeah, it's structuring. And they threaten to kill you, and they'll pull you over, and they shoot. The other day, a guy got shot. I mean, from the police, the judges send these people to say, hey, he's a bad guy, shoot him on spot. They do it all the time.
Okay, so Bryce, so that's where we're at now currently, right?
Correct.
So what's the way out at this point? We're gonna wrap it up, and I'm gonna ask a couple more questions. But what's the way out, or what do you think's gonna happen at this point?
Well, they think that this is over, but any judge in the state of Texas can sign a void judgment because they all take an oath to the same Constitution. So there's going to be one judge in the state of Texas that's going to go, hey, that's a void judgment, and that judge cannot sign that divorce decree. So we'll find him. There'll be a Democrat, there'll be a Republican, one of them. They'll sign it, and they'll go, hey, that's a void judgment. And they can't just continue to break the law of the land because that's heavy stuff. So I was going to say something about that information. So now they're trying to criminally indict me, make criminal sanctions against me off of a civil matter that's void. You can't turn a constitutional right, into a crime.
What the hell's what's happening?
It's all about money. It's all about control and power, because those people in there have a huge ego, and they have to realize that they're hurting people. There are people that get their houses taken, and then they get them back, or they don't, and their lives are messed up. They're having to re-clean their whole house. They're taking boxes that all their personal possessions are ruined, and these judges and these attorneys don't care, and neither did the police. Ken Paxton, the Attorney General for the state of Texas, he's got to stand up and stop this stuff and stop this corruption, because there are people that are by the hundreds, by the thousands that are happening. I'm not the Lone Ranger here. I'm just smart enough to catch them.
Yeah.
And most people just take their whipping and go on. But I shoot rank horses for a living. You think I'm scared of these panty waist judges that do with a pen? The pen is mightier than the sword, you're correct. But the police officers, in all due respect to their position, should take heed of this, because they're hurting people. And they're bashing their heads in. They're cutting they're breaking their arms, and they think that it's police brutality. And I'm for the police, but I'm against what they're doing, and they have a due process to do it correctly. And when they subvert the rule of law, they hurt people, and they're trying to hurt my life, and they're not going to be able to ruin my character. It's just not.
And you would think they're supposed to do the right thing. You would think they're supposed to uphold the law, and in turn, that helps us live a better life. But it's like you can't get no justice with these people.
Well, there's justice coming.
Ooh.
Tanawa Downing and Jessica Saxton on the We Shall Be Free tour, just like your Nino America, and just like judges that rule against the Constitution. And there are lots of advocacy groups out there, and they need to all join and march peacefully on a courthouse. Say Lubbock, Austin, and say, look, stop. Donald Trump, if he's Mr. Cowboy, Mr. BA, Mr. I'm a tough guy, Mr. Cash Patel, Mr. Bondi, Pam Bondi, why don't y'all get down to Texas, to Lubbock, Texas, and talk to Bryce Chapman and Nino America, or talk to Tanawa Downing, We Shall Be Free. Because that's the basic roots of this country. Is the backbone of this country is the hardworking American people. You better start listening to us, because it's coming. Change is coming. And there's going to be one person, and they're going to make a difference. All it takes. My cousin, and my family on my mother's side goes back to Abraham Lincoln. My grandmother's first cousins with Abraham Lincoln. Blood kin. And if these fools that are judges and attorneys and sheriffs think for 1 minute that I'm going to back off of my property, because I'm going back home. I can walk back on my property, cut the lock, and the first person that steps on that place, they better not step on it. I can go back at any time on avoid judgment. Patrick Pirtle, this is a warning to you, cowboy. You broke the law. Billy Eichmann, the second Wild Bill Hickok, you broke the law, man. Stephen Johnson, judge, you broke the law, man. Ed Self, you broke the law. Kelly Rowe, Sheriff Kelly Rowe of Lubbock, you're being paid to break the law. County judges, Mark Hawker, county commissioners of Lubbock, Texas, you're paying public officials to break the law. It's an emolument violation, and it's against the federal Constitution. And you have an oath of office and a contract to the people in which you serve. You better start doing your job, because we, the people, are tired of it. And that's what these blogs are for. We're peaceful people, but you're crossing the line. All of you. Even the mayor of Lubbock now, Mark McBriar, He's in Billy Eichmann's law firm. He's in the judge's law firm, and they're pushing for this lake. Now, get this. You ready for this? I'm going to sum this up real quick. When you file complaints with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct or the State Bar of Texas, you can call the Supreme Court of the state of Texas, and they actually have a prompt that you push on their call log to say, press 4 if you're an attorney and you want a name change. Yeah, it says that I can't make this up. I wrote a bar grievance against Brian Quinn, who I had no idea that he was the person that owned the property next to mine. That's the Chief Justice for the Amarillo Court of Appeals, who has petitioned the state of Texas for this $250 million water allocation for his property that he couldn't do without my property. I wrote a judicial complaint against this Brian Quinn. I did not know that he was the one that owned my property, or the property next to mine, and that his friends was friends with this guy until later. It all comes to fruition. Like what you say, what's done in the dark will be brought to light. Brian Quinn, you've committed a crime, cowboy, and you're going to penitentiary. Somebody's going to arrest you. Somebody's going to arrest Billy Eichmann. Somebody's going to arrest, sorry to tell you, Stephen Johnson, Ed Self, Mackie Hancock's passed away. Matt Harris, you're going to the penitentiary for theft. Look at me. You're going to go to penitentiary for theft. And some sheriff or some Texas Ranger that has some wherewithal, they're coming for you, cowboy. I filed valid criminal complaints against you, and y'all are going to the pen where you deserve, because you can't steal from the American public in which you serve and expect to get away with it, because this is live. And I'm telling you, under the Constitution, Article 5, Section 11, the judge cannot be the attorney for one of the litigants, and then you can't criminalize me for standing for my rights, period. You can't turn a constitutional right into a crime. Y'all are going to jail.
With that, y'all, Bryce Chapman, final words for the people watching. Go ahead.
Stand strong in your faith, or you won't stand at all. The Bible also says, never be weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap if you faint not. Every one of you that are accused of a crime that you didn't commit, you keep your records. If you don't file anything into your case file, 0 times 1 is nothing. The district attorney's always going to win. I'm for you guys that are wrongfully convicted, and so is Tanawa Downing, Jessica Simpson, those against the judicial corruption. Nino America also, thank you for having me, and stand up, because if you don't, these people are going to run over you like a freight train. And they're trying to run over me, but I'm not a criminal, and I'm not a guy that they can ruin their reputation. It's just not going to happen. I have too clean of a record.
Amen. With that, y'all, we're going to go ahead and end the live here. If I can see this. Okay. Bryce Chapman, y'all follow Michael Moore. Michael Moore's in here. Texans Against Corrupt Judges. And we thank y'all for watching, everybody. God bless everybody watching now on the repeat. And we're probably going to be doing this probably in a week or so. We're going to have them back. All 3 of us will be on here, and even some more gentlemen to expose some more corruption. With that, y'all, we're out here. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Michael. And God bless.
Thank you, Nino.